All right, we're live. I'm going to go downstairs and attempt to get some initial interview with my mom. It's April 2024, April 25th, 2024. So I'm going to mosey on downstairs and hopefully this live chat works. Okay, I'm in the office. I'm going to go down to the kitchen and attempt. All right. So I got this YouTube thing on, and I can edit it later in case there's like screw ups or whatever. But I'll frame you in there.
Oh, you're gonna
An
take
interview.
a picture?
Yeah, we're just
Why
taking
don't
up.
we finish smoking?
Oh no, this is all casual. It's just
Oh,
casual,
okay.
casual chat.
Oh, all right.
But anyway,
Did I make up on? I don't remember.
yes, you have. You're
Oh.
still with the camera. Yeah, just I don't know. I would say like maybe go back to where your dad, Frank, what his background is, family, and born in Germany, and then immigrated over here. His parents immigrated over here first, right?
His mother and his father immigrated from different countries, from Lithuania and Germany to here.
Right,
They met, married here.
right. And your grandmother, you never met, or you never met your dad's mom, right?
Oh, okay. She was the one I knew.
Okay,
There was nobody on my mother's side. She was the one that was orphaned or abandoned or whatever.
Right.
But on my father's side, he had a brother and an older sister and a mother, and we visited her farm in Michigan.
So they had a farm in Michigan, and then the Bergs had a farm in Wisconsin, the Berg farm.
Yeah.
And then, do you know where in Michigan your
Yeah,
father's
Hart,
from?
Michigan. It's a little one-horse town, inland of it from Muskegon, like halfway up the coast of Lake Michigan. It's you go to Muskegon, then you drive in, and there's little Hart, H-A-R-T, little like literally one stop like town there, the farm.
What do you know what they grew? Like corn, probably.
Well, remember my grandfather abandoned her, so she had this little farm, and she had a 40 by 60 foot, like a victory garden in the back. And then she had it was a 3-bedroom house.
Right. So your dad's dad.
So she took it, what?
Right. So your grandfather abandoned your grandmother. So
He ran off to join her younger sister.
Right. So
in
Frank
California.
tended the basically raised by a single parent home.
No, this was after the children were raised. This was later.
Yeah. So during his formative years, grade school on up, and then I think he dropped out, right? Or no, he went to high school, he graduated high school, and then
Yeah, he wanted to go to college, but the year he was getting ready to go to college, was a war broke out?
World War II, he was 4F, right?
No, one thing at a time. He had intentions of going to college, but the year he went to college, the Depression hit, and his parents had to move out of the city, which was expensive. And they went up north and bought this little farm in Hart, Michigan. So his plans of going to college were, he was a straight A student.
Right.
So his plans of going to college were scotched. And he had, like I said, he had an older sister, 1 year older, and then a brother 6 years younger. They went up there to Michigan, where they took up farming to get through the Depression.
Right.
Yeah.
And then some of the siblings migrated out to California, right? The Hogsteads, right?
My father's sister Barbara, I guess she was a year older. When she turned 18, she beat it out to California, LA area, I think. And then it was like a year or two later that her father abandoned my grandfather abandoned my grandmother and went out to California,
Right.
lived near his daughter. He had money. He bought a motel out there.
Right.
He lived in, like, the office had a unit where he lived in the back. It's like an L-shaped thing, and then there were like 5 units
Right.
coming forward, and he owned and operated this hotel right on the outskirts of LA. If you were driving in from the east and you got to LA, it was right there, you know. So it was a good location.
Right. So he basically lived out the rest of his life. That would have been Gauch lived out the rest of his life out there and
Yeah.
whatever funeral out there. But you met him at one time, your grandfather, Frank's dad?
Oh yeah. In fact, I have a photo somewhere when he came in to visit my mother. Maybe he didn't want his picture taken, but there's a photo of him in profile.
Yeah.
So
So you met him maybe like a ham under 5 times in your life or whatever.
yeah.
That's my phone. So I'll edit that out. Okay.
Oh, are you recording now?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
Yeah,
I
that's
thought we were going to
impromptu.
start.
Yeah, no, we are. This is good. It's just casual, and I'll edit it.
Oh,
edit
okay.
it.
All right.
I'll edit it out. It's casual, whatever. You can leave mistakes in. I'll edit them out later. It's fine. Yeah.
So where were we?
Yeah. So then Gauch, Frank Gauch's dad, and what was his name? Do you remember
They were
what his first name was?
both Frank.
Oh, Frank. So he's Frank Jr.
Yeah, Frank Gauch Jr.
And he
yeah.
was, where was he in the whole order of births? Like, was he the oldest brother or?
Oh, he had, like I said, he had a sister, Barbara, who was 1 year older than he,
Right.
and she died tragically in California. Like I said, she'd gone out to California, and she was in a bowling league out there.
Mm-hmm.
And they won the championship on this particular Sunday afternoon, and they celebrated. And she was coming back as a passenger with the bowling team's leader.
Mm-hmm.
And he went off a cliff, and the car rolled,
Right.
and she was thrown from the car and killed instantly, whereas he hung onto the steering wheel and somehow managed to survive.
Rided it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
What age did she pass away then?
Well, she was middle-aged, 36, probably something
Okay.
like that.
No kids though. Or
Well, yeah.
oh, she had the oh, okay.
She
So
had,
her last name was
she had
Hogstead.
5.
She was Hogstead. Was her last name was Hogstead? That her married last name. She went from Gauch to Hogstead, or is that?
Confused. My father's sister, Barbara.
Yeah.
Barbara
Gauch.
Gauch
Got married. Yeah.
married Hogstead and had, no, it was her daughter who had 5 kids. I'm confused now.
That's why I'll edit it.
Yeah.
Well, who's the ones that moved to Lake Tahoe then? Was that
That's an offspring from out there.
okay?
I have 5. My cousin Elaine and I were the closest in age, and then she had an older sister, Roy, who became a cameraman for Hollywood,
Mm-hmm.
and even an older sister.
Elaine is the one we met in Lake Tahoe. with-
Yeah,
passed away.
right. So she's my father's brother's
The
daughter.
first cousin of yours.
First
Okay.
cousin, right.
So this would have been your first cousin, and her mother would have been Frank's
And
sister, right? Or not? Or Frank's
Right.
aunt. Okay, yeah. It's going up to 1 and over maybe. Probably should. I'll overlay a family tree.
yeah,
Figure it all out, but
I've got it all written down somewhere upstairs.
right. Okay. So if it was a first cousin, then it would have been Frank's sister.
Barbara.
Sister's Barbara's kids. Elaine is the daughter of Barbara,
Right,
who died in the car accident.
right,
Okay.
right.
Okay. So she has kind of a tragic backstory with her mom dying at a young age, and you do too. Then, kind of,
Yeah.
in a way. So, and then so then you got Frank's older sister, and then did Frank have?
Then Frank, that was his sister who was a year older than he.
Yeah.
And then he had a brother, Ed, who was 6 years younger, who lived most of his life with his wife Elaine in Kansas City area. And their daughter, Ray Carroll, was probably the closest to me in terms of cousins. We were about the same age, and there's a bit of a tragic story there. She was out west. She went out west. She was married, no children yet, and well, when they had trouble conceiving, first of all, they determined that not only she was born without an one ovary was diseased or something somehow,
Yeah.
and the other ovary wasn't functioning, so she was not able to have children. But anyway, so she was working, and it happened that she started to develop like abdominal pain late in the day.
Right.
So that by the time she got out of work, she just had to go down the street to the local clinic, local emergency room, and she lay down on the table and they examined her. Nothing wrong with me.
Yeah.
Second day, same thing. I mean, she goes home, she's fine. She's laying down. She goes to bed, she's fine. She wakes up in the morning, she's fine. But over the course of the day, by the time she's ready to leave work, the abdominal pain is back.
Right.
Long story short, 3 days in a row, she goes to the emergency room complaining of abdominal pain. At one point, they tell her, well, you're a woman, and because it's the Christmas holidays, you're under extra stress, so it's just stress.
Right. Okay.
Well, she died in that emergency room on her third visit
Right.
of a ruptured abdominal aortic aneurysm.
Yeah. And that happened around 2018, so not too long ago, like the last 4 or 5 years. I think you called me about that.
Oh, I thought it was longer than that, but I don't know. Like I say,
Or maybe I'm wrong about that. Yeah, I don't know. Look up that too.
further,
I'll edit it.
so
Frame it in. Okay.
Ray Carroll,
Right.
she got shortchanged.
Right. And then your dad, so he forewent going to college, and I thought he was like 4F because of a back issue or something. So then he decided to.
No, I never didn't have a back issue.
I thought
He was left-handed for what it's worth.
But somehow he dodged the draft for some health-related reason. I thought it was his back skin issue he had.
Oh, you're right. You're right. He had the most peculiar thing I've ever heard of. His skin on his face was clear, but his entire back, like if you paint an outline, like from the collar and then the arm cut out holes there, his entire back was entirely erupting with whiteheads, blackheads,
Right.
constantly.
Exactly. Right.
And when he was a teenager, his parents brought him to a doctor, and he said, "Well, it's just hormones.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there wasn't anything they could do about it."
Right.
He had at home. He had a. They said sunlight will help, so he bought this lamp,
Like a UV lamp.
like a UV. It was on a tripod. You could roll it around. It had a big like wash tub, and in the middle there were two rods that almost touched, like this.
Right.
And when you turned it on, an electric current back and forth between the rods.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd sit there in the basement, turned around, resting on the back of a folding chair, and
Right. And he had that through his
all his
adult
life.
life. Yeah. So some
Yeah.
sort of weird immune thing with his back.
They said not immune,
But a back.
hormone thing.
Right. And then that disqualified him to get drafted into World War
Right.
II.
Yeah.
So in the interim, then he became
Because they couldn't have somebody with a skin issue like that
right.
in the tropics fighting,
Yeah, right.
war,
The
Vietnam or
Japanese,
wherever it was
yeah.
at the time. Or just
Yeah, in World War II. So then he did the pipe fitting, right? And then did he work for like Argonne National Laboratory, or he did something I thought with like installing duct work or something for.
So he worked for them he was in refrigeration and air conditioning.
HVAC.
So he was on the team that installed the refrigeration that cooled the reactor at the University of Chicago's nuclear facility.
Right. Was it on that job that he got like lead poisoning on there, and then you get like inhale, then you have like a bad.
Oh yeah, he came home one day from work. His mother was staying with us, visiting us at the time, and he passed out in the dining room on the carpeting. I remember it was
You were there?
breathing
Yeah.
lead fumes, I guess.
Right. This is when you were born or before?
That was when I was young
teenager.
teenager.
Okay.
Yeah, when my mother died, first of all, I was whisked away by my aunt and uncle who lived in LaGrange from when my mother died in October, late October, to the Christmas holidays, just to give my father those 3 months to like a day after the just or whatever.
Right.
Then I went back home and lived with my father. And I guess maybe it was like for a year. His mother came from the farm, Lithuanian immigrant. She came from her farm to help out. And after 6 or 7 months, she came to me and she said, I can't do this anymore, Diana. It's too hard on my nerves. I can't do this. I have to go home.
Right.
The other thing I didn't like about, and this was my father's mother,
Right.
was one day I came home and she was sitting at her kitchen table with the shears, and she was cutting up into squares. My mother had 2 dressing gowns, lady.
Yeah.
One was a crinkly cotton white with roses. The other was like a dark blue with purple. And I like to put those on once in a while.
Right.
It's like my mother's.
Right.
And there she was sitting at the kitchen table cutting this thing into squares. Just like you can make pillows out of this.
Right. Without any sort of discussion with you.
Oh yeah.
So they were just fighting, or there was just too much conflict between her.
Well, my
and her
father
son?
was still an abusive alcoholic.
Right.
And after a while, she could
Right.
put up with it. So I'm
Right.
sorry, Diana, but my nerves, I can't take this.
Good luck to you.
Yeah.
She offered to just take you with her or whatever, but maybe you wouldn't have wanted to. Anyway. Right. And then there was the other story, the work story about him almost dying in you just told this story.
Oh yeah, where he and another guy fell in. They were working in a pit. Back in those days, companies had the store had their air conditioning, refrigeration units, whatever, underneath the first floor in a hole, like in the basement. It wasn't even a basement; it was just a big opening. And he and this other guy were down there servicing the stuff, and suddenly something blew up, and the whole confined space they were in was filled with flame.
Right.
And the other guy was closest to the ladder, and he grabbed the ladder and pulled, but on the scramble on the way up, the ladder broke off. So my father went up and grabbed and literally had to pull himself up by just his fingers pulling, get out of there. And he got burned all over, first, some 2nd degree burns. He was in the hospital, all wrapped up and swathed in bandages. And that was around the time, like I said, my mother was going to divorce him when she came to see him in the hospital.
Right.
She took pity on him, decided to stay.
Do you remember? I don't remember ever seeing any lasting scars on him. Do you have some?
No. Like I said, it was first, maybe some second.
So
not
debilitating.
He had to be wrapped up and treated, but he was all right.
Right.
Anywho.
All right. Well, let me see if that recorded all right.
Okay.
Hopefully the audio picked that up. I'm gonna be pissed if we went through all that and it didn't work right.